Welcome to Inside Central Oregon, a weekly public affairs program from Horizon Broadcasting Group. The opinions expressed on this program are from our guests and do not necessarily reflect those of the staff and management of this station.
Patsy Melville and Christine Aikenson join us here on Inside Central Oregon this week. Patsy is the owner of High Desert Insurance and Christine a licensed Oregon agent. We're talking about, we say Obamacare, but it's the Affordable Care Act that we're all dealing with here. And let's start with you, Patsy, and talk about High Desert Insurance. How long has High Desert Insurance been around?
We've been in Central Oregon since 2002, and we've been running our business here since then.
Let's talk a little bit about the state of Oregon creating this free health insurance enrollment center and how High Desert Insurance is involved in that.
Okay. So High Desert Insurance, we applied for a grant through the state of Oregon to create a free health insurance enrollment center. We were one of the 24 Oregon insurance agencies selected by the Department of Consumer and Business Services and the Oregon Health Insurance Marketplace to help sign up people for health insurance and get them re-enrolled.
Have you had some sign-ups so far? I mean, how's the response been here?
Phenomenal. We've been busy. We've been doing back-to-back appointments since open enrollment began on November 1st, and it goes until the 31st of January. So, yes, we've been very, very busy helping people get enrolled.
Now, there's a couple of different deadlines for this, too, and we'll be talking about that as well, right?
Yes, there are. There's a deadline coming up on January 15th, which is the deadline for a February 1st starting date for your insurance. So that means you need to sign up by the 15th of January to have your insurance start on February 1st. Then there's one other deadline, which is we refer to as the drop dead deadline. January 31st is the last day to sign up for health insurance in the state of Oregon during the open enrollment period.
You talk about health insurance and drop dead deadlines.
Yeah, probably shouldn't have those in the same sentence.
Well, that's why we need insurance, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. We're really happy to be able to offer this service to people in Central Oregon, and I'm happy for the opportunity to help people get signed up. Obviously, we're huge believers in health insurance, and it's one of those things you are really happy you have it when you need it. And so we're open extra hours, actually, during the month of January. We're staying open late on Wednesday nights to help people get signed up. So if anyone needs help or just has questions in general, you can call our office at High Desert Insurance, and we'd be happy to help answer the questions they have.
It's Patsy Melville, the owner of High Desert Insurance, and also we have with us a licensed Oregon agent, Christine Aikenson. And Christine, let's talk a little bit about the Affordable Health Care Act. And it seems like, we hear the headlines and the sound bites of Obamacare, and there's a lot of people that don't like this. There are others that are being helped by this. So how has the Affordable Health Care Act affected health insurance?
Well, the biggest thing is, in the past, you could apply for health insurance at any time, but you could get denied at any time as well because they did look at your health history in the past. That's gone away now, so anyone can get health insurance. So I always tell people I'm an example of that. If I didn't get health insurance through my work, I would have been declined because I have asthma. So I would have had to go without health insurance and figure out how to pay for everything on my own.
So that's one of the positive things about this Obamacare then, right?
It's a very big positive. There are many, many people that couldn't get insurance before that now have health insurance.
Pre-existing conditions.
Pre-existing conditions. The other one is mental health. Mental health wasn't covered by individual plans in the past. Now people can actually go in and see a counselor and get their mental health drugs, and that's a very big positive.
Is there still time? There is time. We have another deadline around the corner for health enrollment, health insurance enrollment, right?
That's right. We still have time. We have through the end of January if you want to be able to sign up. January 15th is the day before you've got to have everything into the company by January 15th to get a February 1 effective date. January 31st for a March 1 effective date. And that applies to all insurance, not taking out group insurance where you get it through your work, but that's all insurance, whether you go through the marketplace or if you go through a company direct.
So, there are different ways you can get health insurance, isn't there?
That's correct. So you can get it through your work if they offer that to you. If they don't, and you are able to, and you are able to get that financial help, it's a good idea to look at the marketplace to see whether or not you can get the financial help to make your premium payments. But if you make too much money for that, you can still apply direct to the companies just to be able to get health insurance.
Now, you are a licensed agent.
Correct.
Could I see some credentials, please? No.
I actually had a little one in my wallet the other day, but
so
I
you do
noticed
have-
it was the expired one. But
So why should people use an insurance agent when dealing with their health insurance?
well, the biggest thing is we're trained. We've gone to each of the different companies that we work with, and they've told us about all their plans and the ins and outs of those plans. So we can sit down and actually explain to you how your insurance is going to work. What's a deductible? What's the co-insurance? What's the out-of-pocket max? What do those really mean to you? And the biggest thing to remember is we're free. We don't cost you anything to come talk to us. You don't pay any extra for your insurance when you work with an agent than if you go try and figure it out all on your own.
So I come to you and we go ahead and figure something out, and then I enroll. What happens next once I get signed up for the insurance?
Well, right now you wait, but the biggest thing is the companies will contact you with all of your information. They'll send you out your policy package, your ID cards, and your bills, and then you just have to make sure you continue to make your payments throughout the year. It's very important you do that because if you let your insurance go, you cannot get it again until the next open enrollment period.
Well, I was going to ask about that. What happens if I miss my deadline?
If you miss your deadline, you've got to wait until the next open enrollment period. There's also the fact that everybody talks about the tax penalty, and that is a big deal. This year it goes up a little bit. It goes up to $695 for an individual, or 2.5% of your income, whichever is greater, on your taxes. But the one as an insurance agent, the one that scares me the most, is you just won't have coverage. So if you find out something's going on in July, you cannot get coverage until the next open enrollment period.
So how does that tax penalty work into that whole thing? And that's if you're not signed up?
If you don't have coverage for 9 months out of the year, then you're going to get penalized on your taxes for every month that you didn't have coverage.
On top of not having coverage. That
On top of not having coverage.
doesn't sound like a happy new year for some, huh?
That's
Yeah.
right.
So if I miss the deadline, when is the next deadline after this next one?
They haven't told us yet. Every year it's kind of fluctuated a little bit, so we're kind of still in holding. If it stays true to this year, it would be again November 1 through January 31. But last year it was November 15th through February 15th, and the year before that it was even different. So every year just kind of pay attention because there's definitely information out there about when open enrollment periods come up.
We're talking about the Affordable Care Act, and there is still time to get health insurance for 2016. We're with Patsy Melville, the owner of High Desert Insurance, and Christine Aikenson, a licensed Oregon agent. More with them next on Inside Central Oregon.
You are listening to Inside Central Oregon, a weekly public affairs program from Horizon Broadcasting Group. You are listening to Inside Central Oregon, a weekly public affairs program from Horizon Broadcasting Group.
Patsy Melville and Christine Aikenson join us here on Inside Central Oregon this week. Patsy is the owner of High Desert Insurance, and Christine, a licensed Oregon agent. And Christine, let's talk a little bit about the Affordable Health Care Act, and so the next open enrollment period. Well, we're in one right now, and if I come to see you, how would I qualify for something like that?
Well, it's based on income if you're looking for some kind of tax credit. And what they do is they look at household members, and that's anyone that you count on your taxes. So if your spouse is not applying for insurance, you still have to look at their income when it comes to whether or not you get a tax credit. And then they base that on the size of your household, the amount of your income, and the number of people that are applying and their ages. And they come up with a number that they say, this is what we feel is affordable for you based on all of the information you've put in. And then you get to go ahead and shop for a plan based on how much they're going to give you as a discount.
Now, some people listening to this may already have health insurance, so they're set, right?
They are, but if they want to look around, they can still look around. They still have that option to go ahead and look. Maybe they're not really happy with their plan. Maybe they didn't pay attention, and then this year or this month they just got their new bill and they just found out just how much it was going up because it did go up this year. It's a great idea to just check around and make sure that you're still happy with what you have.
So how do I go about shopping around for something like that?
Well, there's a couple things. You can call an agent. You can go on the marketplace and kind of just look around a little bit. We do have a really nice feature on our website that you could look at that shows you plans that are available out there, and you can actually look and see maybe you do qualify for something, and it's a great idea to just double check.
You know, they call it the Affordable Care Act because it sounds like it's affordable. What happens, though, if, I just can't afford health insurance?
Well, you have a couple choices. Obviously, if you can't afford it, you'll go without. But there are some exceptions out there. That doesn't mean that you're going to get coverage. It just means that you wouldn't get penalized at the end of the year. The best place to look to see whether or not you might qualify for that exception is the healthcare.gov. And you have to make sure that you put in the gov, because if you put in healthcare.com or one of the other ones, you're not going to go to the official website.
Who knows what you're going to find, huh?
That's right. And you might get a lot of phone calls for people that want your credit card number.
So healthcare.gov is the website for starters.
That's the official website for the federal marketplace, which is what Oregon uses this year for their signups.
Now, Christine, you've been around the block when it comes to, being a licensed Oregon agent. You've done this a few years now. You've probably heard and seen some of the success stories of those that have actually, for this new Obamacare.
I have. There's been a lot of them. I've had people that really wanted to retire, but they didn't know whether or not they were going to be able to afford their health insurance, because the older you get, the more expensive it does get. And they were able to sit down. We were able to put in their numbers. I had a lady leave crying. Not that I ever want people to cry when they leave my office, but she was crying because she was happy because she found out she was actually going to be able to retire, where she didn't think she was going to be able to do it before that. I've had many people that have had surgeries that they just didn't think they were going to be able to afford before this. So there's been a lot of people that it really has benefited a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. And you're hearing crying on other fronts too. If you listen to the Republicans in Washington, D.C., they want to repeal this. Why do you think that is the case?
Well, they're not happy with how it is, and I realize that a lot of people don't like to be told what they can and can't do. I also like to remind people that we had the same thing that we went through with seatbelt laws. If you think about it, I remember when those went through, and everybody was very upset to be told that they had to wear a seatbelt. Now most of us don't think anything of putting our seatbelt on when we drive down the road. Same thing with Medicare. If you stop and look at the history of Medicare, people weren't happy when Medicare went through either, but they are now. So, it just takes time. We're going to have growing pains, and there's going to be lots of growing pains. But in the end, the most important thing is that we have healthy citizens and people that can go in and see a doctor if they need to.
Yeah, you've been a licensed Oregon agent before Obamacare, so you've seen kind of the difference or the transition. What's just your overall impression of this?
Overall, I think it's a good thing. I think that there's a lot of things that still need to be worked out, a lot of kinks in the system, but that always happens whenever there's a big change. And this is a huge change. This is affecting millions and millions of people. This is not some little tiny tweak in the system. So I think overall it's a good thing, and it's going to take a while for it to all shake out, and everybody just needs to hold tight a little bit.
So repealing it, you don't think is the answer? It's more tinkering with it, maybe, or
definitely, yeah. There's some things that could be tinkered with, and if they put me in charge of the world, I'd probably do some different things. But I'm not in charge, so.
But you are helping out those here locally that may need health insurance for 2016, and that's really what it's all about, isn't it?
That's really what it's about, is the people and making sure the people have what they really need.
Now, does the state have a website up still? I haven't checked.
The state has a website, and what that website will do is it will direct you to local agents that can help you. It will also send you to the federal website where you can go in. I do recommend using a local person. If you call the federal site and get signed up, they can sign you up, but they can't advise you on a plan. So you could end up with something that really doesn't work for you.
Well, fantastic. Christine, thanks for coming in to update us a little bit on this Affordable Care Act and what we can do here locally to enroll, and if we're qualified or not. Anything else you care to add to that?
We talked a little bit about, if you forget to make your payment, what happens and that you can't sign up again. Keep in mind there are special enrollment periods that go out throughout the entire year. If you have something happen that's outside your control, you get married, you get divorced, you have a baby, you lose your insurance because you change your job, you move, those are all reasons that you can go out and shop for insurance. So it's a good idea to remember that. It doesn't mean that you find out that you have something, but if any of those special qualifying events come up, those are ways that you can go out and shop for insurance.
So the first enrollment deadline is come and gone, but we have another one. And what is that date again?
January 15th for a February 1 effective date.
All right. Thank you, Christine. Appreciate it. It's Christine Atkinson, a licensed Oregon agent. Patsy Melville, the owner of High Desert Insurance. Thanks for coming in this morning. And any final comments?
Absolutely. I just wanted to share one last thought that I think that open enrollment in Central Oregon is especially important right now because there are a higher number of people who are eligible for financial help but are currently uninsured in Central Oregon places in the state. So basically there's money out there for people to have help with their insurance, but in Central Oregon we have a lower number of people taking advantage of that. So just encouraging everyone to take a look at their health insurance options and get signed up by the end date of January 31st.
Well, after all, it is pretty much the most important issue you have to deal with in your life, isn't it? Your health.
Absolutely. We like to stay healthy.
All right. Thanks, Patsy.
You're listening to Inside Central Oregon, a weekly public affairs program from Horizon Broadcasting Group.